I mean, anybody want to weigh in on that?
I think you're right. I think it would be really difficult for us to manage it, and I mean, just somebody who knows what they're doing, management company.
So,
I just think it's something we should talk about early on.
yeah. Well, I think, we've got to get our ducks in a row here. If we get the zoning change, get the comprehensive plan change, and then get our topographical map, and then get a design company, group, whatever, so that we can get our concepts put on paper. It's just really one step at a time here. But I think, I think the reading that I get from all of you is that we are definitely looking for a blend of rental and sale units that will be as dense as we're allowed to have, utilizing town water, town sewer. But we're looking for a blend of sizes and formats, rental and sale. Is that a fair statement?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I don't know how we're doing on time.
We've got, it's 4:48. We do have a couple of council members that are joining in now.
Okay.
And soon will be the council, I guess will be wanting to call their meeting to order as soon as they're ready.
Okay, so all of you that are able to stay on the call, that'd be great. We should, unless anybody has something else they want to sneak in here before the council starts their meeting. Anybody?
No.
Okay, then we will reconvene to the council meeting forthwith.
Yeah, and this,
We can
we're just staying right where we are. The council is joining us here, so.
Very good. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy.
Andre, we are recording this meeting and also we are live on YouTube at this time. You currently have Sven and yourself and Mark Emanuel, besides the housing board is present as well, and Marianne Crawford. Oh yeah, Jill Stern, a co-host. Yeah.
No Martha or Keith?
Not yet.
Thank you, Millie, for dealing with my emails.
Always a pleasure, Sven. Oh, here's Martha too. Okay, they're both here.
I was just promoted to panelist. That's the first promotion I've had in decades.
We good, Millie?
For some reason, so Martha is here. She's in she is in our attendee here, and I can't seem to move her to a panelist. It's not really clear to me why. Maybe because she's on a phone but I'm. Martha, you're here now, right? I think we have you.
Oh,
on.
great.
Okay, thank
Yep,
you
I'm
for your
here.
patience. We're all set.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
The council is fully here and we are recording and ready to move forward. Before you guys do call the meeting to order, you may want to consider, you do have Jill Stern and her engineers present. And at this point, that's number 3 on the agenda. You may choose to reorder move to reorder the agenda just so that she can kind of move through her presentation before we get mired down in the Housing Board Development, but that will be up to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Millie. Thanks for everybody for coming. Nice to see you all. I'll begin the meeting with a joint meeting with the New Shoreham Town Council and the Block Island Housing Board, Tuesday, May 8th, 2021. The Housing Board is meeting.
Hello?
You good? The Housing Board is meeting via telecommunications pursuant to State of Rhode Island Executive Order 20-46 dated June 12th, 2020. Zoom access codes are on Clerkbase if anybody would like to join. And with that, I will open the meeting. First, like I said, thank you all for coming. I guess I'll make a motion to move number 3 up on the agenda, discuss and act on a proposal from Jill Stern of the Abbas House family regarding lot donations in exchange for an easement across the Thomas property. I will make a motion to move that up to number 1. If that,
Second.
seconded by Mark Emanuel. All those in favor? Sven?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
Keith?
Yes.
Mark?
Aye.
I'm not opposed to that. Motion will carry 5-0. So item number 1 on our agenda this evening is to discuss and act on a proposal from Jill Stern of the Abe's House family regarding lot donation in exchange for an easement across the Thomas property. I trust we've had that in our packet for a little while and everybody's familiar with that proposal. So with that, does council have any questions or comments, or we want to let Jill go and discuss the proposal? Okay.
Let
Thank
her
you.
go.
Thank you, Jill Stern. I'll let you open up the meeting and discuss the proposal with us.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to meet you all virtually. I assume everyone has had a chance to look over our proposal, but I'm just going to run through it quickly. I appreciate your putting us up on the agenda so Scott and Audie don't have to wait around. First of all, we're really pleased to be able to discuss this affordable housing proposal with all of you. We think it's a great chance for the town to get more affordable housing in a good location close to other affordable housing. And we'd like to give you some details about some of the options we see and let you have a chance to hear from our engineering consultant, Audie Osgood from Dupree, and Scott Rabideau, our environmental consultant from Natural Resources, who have both taken a look at this and believe it's feasible from both an engineering and a wetlands standpoint. First of all, as I mentioned, I'm Jill Stern. I'm representing 2 of the owners of the property, which is off of High Street. I'm actually the president of Highview Glen Inc., which owns half the lots, and I'm also here on behalf of my mother, Joan Grossman, who owns the other half. I wanted to emphasize, obviously, it's no secret that the town needs affordable housing. I'm kind of preaching to the choir here because I know you're all have been very active in trying to find opportunities for housing for local residents. So I'm not going to spend much time on that. But I do want to emphasize that I think this property has a lot of attractive features for affordable housing. It's overall, and Audie will get more into this, it's about 8 acres of land, of which 6 is wetlands, and about 2 acres is buildable property. It was subdivided in 1969. There's a total of 16 building lots, of which 7 are buildable. They're outside the wetlands. They're all at least 10,000 square feet in size. And as I mentioned, they're close to town property. They join the Pilot Hill HOA in Ambrose Lane. They're close to the school. They're close to the town. And it also abuts Lot 218, which is town-owned, as well as some other town property, which we believe could also be used for access. We also, another feature of this property is it's already zoned residential. It has access to town water and sewer. I confirmed with the water department that it's in the town district, and you could connect through High Street. In addition, in the subdivision, each of the lots has 100-foot frontage on existing right-of-way called Highview Lane. I won't belabor it, but I put into the presentation some of our efforts over the years. I can say personally, over the last 20 years, I have attempted to encourage the Nature Conservancy to acquire our land. We've also made a proposal in 2012 for affordable housing to the then town manager. I think we've been very consistent in trying to make this property available for affordable housing, because we think it's a very desirable thing for Block Island to have a vibrant community and to have a place for local residents to acquire housing, given what's going on with housing costs on the island. We have also tried numerous ways to access the property with minimizing wetland disturbance. We negotiated for many, many years with our neighbors on all sides, unsuccessfully. Frankly, we're at a point where we'd like to do something with the property due to the advancing age of the owners, including my mother, as well as the continuing restrictiveness of wetlands regulations, which we understand are going to have been approved in January of this year to become even more restrictive. So, while we really would like to make this available for the town for affordable housing, I mean, the realities are that we feel like we're kind of under a time deadline to file later this year to go in through the existing subdivided road if we can't find another access point. So I just wanted to mention that, just to indicate where we are. So in looking at the property and having a chance to talk about it with our experts, we really see 3 possible development options. The first one is the one that I presented to the Affordable Housing Board, which is would involve an easement over Lot 218, where I think the medical clinic is now, to access the back lots. What I proposed to the Affordable Housing Board is that we would, in return for the easement, plus some other contributions by the town, we would make 3 single-family home lots out of the 7 available for affordable housing. This is one of the access road options that audience got looked at on their concept plan. The second option, which I gave a lot of thought to after discussing this with the consultants, is the possibility that the town and or the land trust, again, I don't know, how you work together, could potentially acquire all 8 acres and make some of it available to the town for affordable housing. And the rest would be put to conservation uses, because we understand that, there has been a lot of interest by the Nature Conservancy and the Land Trust in this property because of the, the ecological benefits, the birds, the bird area, et cetera, and the wetlands. So we thought in a way that might be a more attractive option for the town, because it would give you a lot more flexibility to in terms of access points. And there were a couple of other options that Audie's going to describe when he gets his presentation, which you may have seen on our map that I provided. One of those is, it looks like there is a way to get in from Pilot Hill Road along the other side of the HOA. That would be a very direct route without even as much wetland disturbance. The town also has other options that we don't have. For example, we tried to come in over the Rose property, which is next to us, and then come back in after the swamp. And we couldn't come to a mutually agreeable solution there. But I know the towns often have opportunities to acquire property by eminent domain and things like that that we don't have. So that's why I wanted to throw out the town development option, because I think it would give you a lot more options, not only in terms of access, but in terms of subdividing the land or doing cluster zoning, cluster development, things where you could use the land perhaps more efficiently for more density than we can at this point, since it's already been subdivided into these lots back in 1969. So I wanted to throw that out as something that's worth thinking about. I didn't present that to the housing board, but I do think it, thinking about it, it makes, could make a lot of sense for the town. The third option is the one I mentioned, which would be purely private development, where we would take on, developing the existing subdivision and, based on some discussions we've had with DEM, I don't want to speak for them, but I believe that they would not totally deprive us of all reasonable use of that property, given the fact that we've held it since the 1960s. We've been paying taxes on it, and it has value. So, but as I said, we would prefer to pursue one of these options with the town, because we feel, our family, we're not developers, so we're not, we're not anxious to take that on, but we do feel that, that there's a lot of value to our family in that property, that we have to consider all of these options. I sketched out some of the terms for the development options I just mentioned. I'm happy to go into more detail, but I think I've kind of given you the framework and some of the economics and what will come out of it. I do think there are some other creative ways to structure if the town wants to acquire the whole property, because I know one of the things that Cindy's mentioned to me is that you typically acquire quarter-acre lots in the neighborhood of 50,000 per lot in order to make the economics work, which is obviously way below market value of those lots based on comparables on Highview Lane. But there may be a way if, if the land trust is interested in acquiring part of it for conservation, that they could keep the loss, the lot prices down to that level for purposes of affordable housing. Again, I'm happy to discuss, more specifics in terms if people are interested, but I was hoping just to have a chance to acquaint everybody with what I see as the potential opportunity. So that's the big picture. I wanted to turn it over to Audie now to talk about the engineering specifics of some of these access points we've mentioned. I think he's on, I saw his name. Oh, there he is.
He's there. Thank you, Jill.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't give you much of an introduction, but I did include everyone's bios at the end of the presentation, so.
Thank you. Odie, would you like to go ahead?
Certainly. I can share my screen with a copy of the site plan that was submitted if that would be helpful. Otherwise, I assume everyone has a copy of it as well, but whatever the council prefers. So.
Does anybody not have that with them and would like Odie to screen share that?
I have it.
I'm just working off a plat map. If you could put it up and not discount what you're going to say, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Odie. We'll give you a minute. Works.
And while this gentleman is putting it up, Jill, is this just for a utility easement?
No, well, are you talking about the proposal over for access? It would be, it would actually be a road, but it would include utilities coming in the same way. It would be a road to access the property. I think it'll be clearer if.
Thank you.
Sure. So just for the record, my name is Audie Osgood. I'm a professional engineer licensed in Rhode Island, employed at DePreet Engineering in Cranston, Rhode Island. And we've worked with Jill to put together a site layout and access plan, really knowing that the access to this site is a key piece of what we've got here. Just a couple of real high level things first. So obviously there are some wetlands on site that we would need to work our way through or around to get access to this site. We've looked at several options for that. We don't see anything from an engineering standpoint that would be a showstopper. Obviously this site does have some challenges, would be a little more complicated than a typical development project from an engineering and access standpoint. But nothing that would prevent access in any of the routes, from an engineering standpoint, at least in any of the routes that we have shown on this site layout plan. Utilities, as were mentioned, are available: public sewer and water. So again, we may have some challenges from a foundation standpoint or a support standpoint to bring those into the site, but all can be managed. And it eliminates the need for a number of on-site treatment systems for water or septic. So grading on the site seems to be relatively minor. We did look at a profile or a road profile for sort of this major option across lot 219, and we've included that as the second page of our submittal. The grades all meet the town road standards without significant amounts of cut and fill. Stormwater management on this site will be a key part of the design. We'd look at using pervious road materials, driveway materials wherever we could. I think that's a good approach here. And then I think the buildings could all be addressed with dry wells and maybe some limited surface treatment for those impervious areas in larger storms. So just at the high level, any of these options are viable from an engineering standpoint. We think that the property is developable from an engineering standpoint. And as I mentioned, I think the main location that Jill had us look at for access into the developable lots, which are all clustered here in this sort of southeastern corner of the area. The blue outline, the larger one, is the overall plat that was subdivided in 1969, and then the smaller boxes are each individual lots. We've shown the setbacks as they would be reduced for these lots as they're existing non-conforming lots of record. So that the access would come off of High Street along the southern property line of lot 218, down the slope on the eastern side of that lot, across the wetland area, and tie back into the platted road location on what would have been the sort of the southwest end of that. And there's a not insignificant length of wetlands to be crossed in that scenario. So part of our due diligence in this is to look at multiple options. What's the least impactful way that we would get through those wetlands? So we looked at a possible access from Ambrose Lane, which eliminates a significant amount of impact to the wetlands in this area, both the perimeter wetlands and some of the biological wetlands. We also looked at a access off of Pilot Hill Road that would further reduce the amount of impacts. We looked at a couple of options, obviously the platted right of way, and then we looked at an option which we didn't show, but as Jill mentioned, is it possible to get around the wetlands on this northeast corner and back into the development? We looked at that. The road would have to be so far off of the platted development that it's really not practical to stay far enough from the wetlands to make that work. So the wetlands impacts would be even more significant in that scenario. So what we sort of focused on are these three scenarios. Scott, I'm sure, can talk to more of the wetlands related impacts, but the two key pieces here was this has a potentially larger biological wetland disturbance, smaller perimeter wetland disturbance, and then the green option is essentially just the opposite of that, where there's the sort of the ratios of the amount of disturbances flip. So there are pros and cons to both those configurations from an engineering perspective. So I think that sort of covers the engineering pieces, at least at the higher level. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I could for the anyone on the call, actually, the meeting.
Does anybody have any questions for Audi, Council?
Andre, can I ask a couple of questions?
Absolutely. I'm just, I didn't see your hand up, so I was just.
I know, I was trying to get to it.
No, I'm going through my, it's a different screen, so go ahead.
A couple of questions or comments. One is along this 218 property, there is a easement there. There's a greenway easement of 10 feet. I'm not sure if you folks were aware of that.
We were. I believe it was Jennifer in the planning office informed me about that. So we've held 10 feet off of the property line on that south side to that parcel.
So the present town manager's house there, how many feet, if you take into that greenway, how much room or feet do you have there?
It's pretty close. I would say that, and obviously this is just digitized or traced off of a different aerial that unfortunately had poorer resolution, or not enough coverage actually of the entire site, and poorer resolution on some of the other areas. But potentially someplace between 10 and 30 feet, maybe between the edge of the proposed access road and that existing structure. Again, this
Okay.
is at a pretty preliminary stage, so we're not, no survey has been done or anything like that. That would certainly be one of the early pieces of the design, but it's not a significant separation.
Now, the one you're coming in here, it's what you call off, is this Ambrose Lane or something like that?
This lane, just to the south of that.
Yeah,
And yes,
yep, exactly. Is this as I'm looking at this, you're going through the yellow piece, right? That's where you're looking to put the road in, is that it?
yes. And
Who owns that property there?
I believe that the property, at least these two undeveloped parcels, are owned by the town. And my understanding is that there's a homeowners association here, and that these properties were developed by the town at one point in the past. I'm not certain of the ownership right now. I could pull up the town's assessors online information and click on those if would like to.
So it's
How
lot
about,
8, 217, and 217.6 and 217.5, is that it? Why did I think that was homeowner's property? Maybe I'm mistaken.
I think you thought that because that's what it is.
I believe that is the open space for the Pilot Hill Homeowners Association.
That's what I thought.
and what about the purple road? We couldn't tell from the plat whether that was part of the HOA also, but it appears to be town property.
I'm looking at something here. Some of that, it depends, because I'm looking at a different map and looking at this at the same time. I'm not sure if that's homeowners. I just wanted, before the council gets into too much discussion, I just wanted to point out a couple of things to them and to the folks so we know what we're looking at here.
Yeah, on the Pilot Hill HOA, those two empty lots have lot numbers, 217.6 and 217.5. So I
Right.
assume that they were, they're lots that could potentially be built on. But I don't know with the,
I think they're
I'm quite
homeowners.
sure.
lots.
I think that was the conservation component of that project.
I
So
agree.
I agree. Yeah.
It was the open
I
space.
believe
part,
it's the open space is required to sustain the density of the Pilot Hill Association.
Yeah. Okay.
Audie, on the road across 218, the road itself is 20 feet wide, so you're showing a buffer on either side also?
The road actually, the gravel road surface is 10 feet wide. We've shown a 20-foot wide right of way there. So, and I believe if I want to say this, just looking for solutions here, however this were to work out, but if there's an open space requirement that's needed to meet the owners association for that development, obviously there's some open space available in the Highview Lane plat that could be swapped for right-of-way land for some of these other parcels that would be available, I think, to help rebalance, I'll say, the open space requirement for that development if the town wished to pursue those access locations. I think obviously that's that's farther down the road from an engineering decision, but
Right.
Sven Reason, I see your hands up.
Yeah, thanks, Andre. Can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah.
I guess somebody, and maybe Scott, if you are doing the presentation next or something, I'm still a little confused as to why the platted right of way isn't what we're sort of looking at, and why it's so much worse, and how one could adjust for that. I mean, based on all the lots that go in essence north, if that's the right way to think about this, you know, that sure seems like the simpler, straighter. The two other routes we've been talking about have a whole lot of hiccups in them. I'm a little disappointed that we don't actually have the placement of the new townhouse on there, because I don't actually think there's potentially room in there. That's really going to be tight. And that homeowners, whether it's the purple or the green line, they do cut through pretty preserved space. So I guess maybe from an engineering or from a wetlands point of view, if somebody can help me with Highview Lane and what's going on there, that would help me. And then lastly, to the owners, you know, talked about three, based on the presentation, three potential units going towards affordable. My big question is what's happening to all those other lots? I mean, that's a lot of numbers in there.
Well, let me discuss that first, and then Scott can weigh in. I think if you look at Audie's plan here, it shows the 7 houses on these are the only 7 buildable lots as shown on this plat. The other lots, as I mentioned, there's 16 total lots shown, but only 7 of them are buildable. So the others were part of the proposal to donate or make those open space. So those, you know, so if the affordable housing, you know, the joint development went forward, 3 of them would be affordable housing and 4 of them would be, you know, basically, you know, private development, meaning probably family, maybe we would have to sell some to help pay for the road. So, I mean, we're talking about a total of 7 houses in here, in this whole, within the existing boundaries that are shown, the whole blue outside. To answer your other question, we can go in the subdivided road. We'll cross a lot more wetland. So we've been looking for alternatives so we could minimize wetland crossing. And that's, you know, been our focus for the last 20 years in talking to the neighbors all around us. And that's, you know, what we hope to accomplish with this proposal, that we could, you know, accomplish 2 public goals, one being affordable housing, the other being wetland conservation. So that's really why we're proposing it. We could go in the other way, but we're pursuing, you know, alternatives that we feel would give more to the community.
Thank you, Jill. Sven, anything else? Does anybody else have any? You're welcome, Sven. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
I mean, I did want to mention, Audi, when you talked about the access along the Rose property, I think you were talking more about going within our property, not going over the Rose property. Did I?
Yeah, I was a little unclear about that. So obviously we could there's some room to stay on the, you know, the platted development, but that's really within the right of way all along this edge. If we were to cross over to get outside of that and onto the Rose property to avoid, you know, wetlands impacts, we'd have to be significantly off of this platted property and way out into that you know, or into that abutting property, which is, not practical to really to consider, I don't think at this point with the other options available, so.
Yeah, I just mentioned that because, that's something that we tried to accomplish, to negotiate with the Roses unsuccessfully. But I think you mentioned to me that other towns have, taken property by eminent domain for wetland, to avoid wetland purposes. So I just threw that, I wanted to throw that in there, if it might be an option open to the city, to the town, if the town acquired the whole parcel. But that's not something that we were able to do from a private standpoint.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Chris Williams,
Andre,
go ahead.
Cindy Pappas here.
Hi, Cindy.
I had a question for Audie.
Go ahead.
Audie, you had mentioned that from an engineering point of view, you felt access was feasible, but you've definitely been acknowledging the difficulties of the wetlands and the terrain. If you had to take a guess, I'm assuming that even with a different right-of-way, not the Highview Lane right-of-way, the other proposals that you're putting out there, there would be a significant cost differential to meet the challenges of the wetlands and the terrain. Any idea what kind of statistical difference there would be from a regular road to this kind of engineering and construction that would be required?
I could use my crystal ball probably as well as anybody else at the meeting could. So I would, I think, be remiss to offer anything. There's so many variables at this point in time. What route would we select? Are we looking at, crossing a small amount of the biological wetlands and a little bit more of the perimeter wetlands where probably we have better foundation conditions? There are probably several different types of roadway or bridge or elevated road or something that could be considered. So I think it would probably be a little premature to offer much of an opinion on how much, what the differential might be. I'd be happy to say that it will be more.
Well, I know it would be more. I was just trying to figure out, what were, because the development costs could be very significant here to get a road in.
Yes, they could be. And until some initial site evaluation work is done to take a look at what's kind of base, for our road foundation is available out there, it's really just it's a complete guess. It could be that we can peel back a few feet of organic material through the lower layers here, just like we would for a typical subdivision road where there's 1.5 feet or 2 feet of topsoil. Move that out of the way. And you've got good soils below that to start building from. That would be ideal. It could be that there's significant amount of unsuitable soils underneath these alignments, but until we pick one, even that's pretty hard to
Well,
say.
Cindy, I think, also that question is answered by how much is actually crossing wetlands. So for example, any of these other roads like across 218 or the yellow or the purple road that that are shown, I mean, it's going to be a normal road up to the wetland point. So, the shorter the wetland crossing, the less of a differential. So that, that's part of the equation.
Thanks.
Well, good, Cindy.
But this is Martha.
Hi, Martha.
Hi, sorry about not being on screen. The connectivity from my house is dicey. I have, we all have that sheet that has the biological wetland impact and just the numbers of square feet impacted. The differential is very significant. And without even having numbers, I think it's pretty clear that it's a huge difference between these two.
Thank you, Martha. So a member of the public, Christopher Willie, has his hand up. Can we unmute Chris? All right, he's good. Go ahead, Christopher Willie.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks.
To answer a couple of questions that people didn't have answers to, is the town manager's house, which is my neighbor. This, from the distance from the stone wall to the house, is about 35 feet. So if it's a 20-foot right of way and you have to be 10 foot off the stone wall, that road's going to go 5 foot behind that house, if not less. Ownership is back to the, I'm sorry, Thomas property. I'll stick on that. We had if the town had a proposal for this in 2012, which I think is what I read, if I'm not mistaken. I'm kind of disappointed this wasn't included in the master plan when we went forward with the Thomas property long-term plan when, 4 or 5 years ago. Because we have a lot of plans for that property that do include employee housing, executive housing, maybe affordable housing. So it's a little disappointing that this wasn't part of that, or we didn't have knowledge of that, because this could have been accommodated, maybe in one shape or form. As far as the Ambrose Lane properties, those belong to the homeowners. The proposed access via Purple is open space that belongs to the homeowners association. The orange access is both property of Jen Brady and open space, so that's homeowners association. I know there's an avoidance of accessing this property via the existing right-of-way road. I think it's 248 isn't included in this perimeter. I don't know why, because I thought it was part of the same ownership. But the wetland buffer, if I'm wrong, is that the pink dotted line, is that the wetland buffer? Is that what this refers to, that pink dotted line around this project?
That's the limit of the 25-foot perimeter wetland as we have it now. Okay.
If you stick to the northeast border of this property, how is that more damaging? Because there's cleared land right across the property line, like mowed, hayed, it's maintained. And then you get into this property and it's wetland all of a sudden. I'm struggling to figure out why that access isn't feasible by working with the town coming down Highview Lane. Obviously 248 looks like it has a pond on it. That I get. But if you stay to the north in the eastern border of this property, I just struggle to find out how that is more costly than basically going with the other options. It's going to be there are a lot more hiccups trying to do the Ambrose Lane part. I haven't talked to the other homeowners. I'm the president of the association. This is I don't think anybody other than Jen has seen this. I haven't talked to the other two homeowners. I don't think they know about this. I think if the town is going to entertain anything, this isn't a bad idea by any means. I just struggle to figure out why access via 248 is that problematic. Looking at what I'm looking at in the abutting properties, I'm assuming Rose is the property that's just on the other side of the northeast border. That's all cleared, maintained property. There aren't any wetlands on it. So you hop over the stone wall, so to speak, and now we're in wetlands. I think the town should at least pursue a little more clarification on that end of it.
I'm not clear what you were saying about the, on the other side. I mean, I'll tell you, the cost of the road will be comparable, coming down Highview Lane, but it's going to have more wetland impact. And that was the reason why we were pursuing other options, because we know that, wetland conservation is, also a big issue. And also, from a environmental permitting standpoint, we were trying to find options that would be, less impactful on the wetlands. In terms of the roses, I mean, we did explore that, and we put together a plan showing how we could come out outside our property and come back in below the wetland. Farther down, I can't, my screen is covered where we would come back in, but you can see there's like a right of way at 244. I mean, we could very easily go out, build it on non-wetlands, and then come back in. But we couldn't, and in fact, we talked to the Roses for many years. We were going to give them some lots in return for that, but we couldn't come to, they were not interested in doing that. So all I'm saying is, what this reflects is that we're trying to pursue options that would, be better for the island, we thought, in terms of the wetland impact, and also, having the opportunity to, do something to do a trade for allowing affordable housing in there. But that's not to say that the road costs would be probably about the same in terms of linear feet. And
I think my question isn't necessarily the road cost, because you partner with all the parties. I would assume that road cost would be shared, but your proposal is going through wetlands regardless. Like, every single access is going through a wetland. And I guess my question is Mr. Rabideau making the assessment that one is less impactful than the other?
Yes,
Or
maybe he should discuss that now, because for example, if we went across like the Ambrose Lane, we would only it would only cross 3,200 square feet of wetland, biological wetland. And, Scott, I believe below 5,000 is not even considered a significant alteration, whereas.
Well, that's not entirely true, but I can explain all of that.
Yeah, take it over, Scott, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I've been trying to let everybody talk. So first, Warden, thanks for the opportunity, council members and everybody else. My name is Scott Rabideau. I'm a wetland biologist. My office is in Harrisville, Rhode Island, which is as far away as you can be from Block Island and still be in Rhode Island. I've been practicing for well over 30 years, and I do a very good amount of freshwater and coastal wetland permitting in the state. To answer Sven's first question, which was very important, why are we going through this exercise? Because the other alternatives have difficulties. It's because the DEM process requires us to. We have an obligation, if we're going to any alteration. The homeowners association president brought that up, as well. Any alteration to a freshwater wetland is an application to alter at the DEM level. It's the most stringent type of review. It goes through a full public notice, and it takes a lot of engineering and biological data for the applicant to submit to the department. But the biggest part of it is the impact avoidance and minimization section. And under that section, you're obligated to seek out all feasible alternatives that will result in a minimization or avoidance of impacts. So when we got together and started discussing this project, you're absolutely correct. We can come in Highview Lane and we can submit the application to alter. and we can attempt to mitigate the impacts by bridging and arch culverts, to use that platted lot. As Joe pointed out earlier in her presentation, the department is not in the business of denying people reasonable use of their property. And in this instance, you have a platted road and platted lots that predate the Wetlands Protection Act from 1971. So, there's clear indications here that reasonable use would be the development of those lots, and it requires access. So how do we minimize? And we went through this exercise and we looked at the green, the yellow, and the purple alternatives as alternatives which would reduce impacts. So the purple alternative is the best alternative, just to cut through the chase. It results in 3,200 square feet of biological wetland being impacted and 4,300 square feet of perimeter wetland. It's at the far southern extent of the Ambrose Swamp, and from a wildlife habitat perspective, it's the least impacting fragmentation that would occur. So if there were any opportunity, to get the homeowners association authorization and, repurpose land on this property as part of their open space, that would be the best alternative from a wetland permitting perspective. If it's not feasible, we've at least explored this alternative with everybody, and we can represent to the DEM that we've gone through this exercise, and the town council has been gracious enough, and the housing authority has heard us on this. But it is truly the least impacting environmental alternative that you can come up with. To the gentleman's point about the northeast corner. So coming in from Highview Lane, it does go through the middle, middle right or middle northeast section of the Ambrose Swamp. An alternative could be to get through lot 248, and if you're using the dark blue line as the property line, we have to stay on the inside of that. So it's all freshwater wetland impact. It's on the southwest side of the wall, and everything on the southwest side of the wall is wetland. My firm delineated this property back in 2013, so I can tell you that everything inside that dark blue line is in fact wetland. So you still have a major wetland alteration that's not as preferable as the purple, but it may in fact be an alternative if we don't have the ability to come up with something on, through that other property. It may be an alternative that we look to, but it's still a very significant amount of wetland that's going to be altered to use that. Our job here is to try to create something that DEM can look favorably on. And again, we do that by these discussions with adjacent property owners to try and come up with an alternative that minimizes impacts. So hopefully that explains a little bit of it, and I'll gladly answer any questions.
Scott, can you talk a little bit about the conclusion of 7 buildable lots on this property?
Well, the majority of the area, Audie, if you can scroll down a little bit to show the lots. So as was pointed out earlier, that pink hashed line is the 50-foot perimeter wetland. The green area is the actual delineated wetland from 2013. So, you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots that are totally outside of state regulated freshwater wetlands. One lot will have a minor encroachment, that's 233 into the 50-foot perimeter wetland. And 231 would have the most encroachment into the 50-foot perimeter wetland. But the perimeter wetland is upland. It's just that regulated buffer zone that's attached to a wetland that's designated as a swamp. So those lots are developable. It's just how do we get there? And there's sewer available, which is obviously a major plus for any project on lots that are 10,000 square feet in size.
Thank you, Scott. Sunreason, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Andre. And Scott, thank you. That was helpful. And you and I have worked on enough projects in the past.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your expertise and knowledge. I guess I got a couple of questions based on that dialogue. One, I noticed that 241 is not noted for development. So that's sort of one question as to why, when you've got others that are closer to the wetlands. And then as, again, a little bit to Chris Woolley's questions and my earliest question, if you came off of Highview Lane and could figure out how to go sort of what I'm going to call east, I guess, so you almost cut that blue and then come right along the edge, I understand the length, or at least I can see the length, and I understand the impact, but it is bordering on non-wetland area. How is that worse than building what I'm going to call a fairly major causeway through a pretty big habitat wetland area, at least in the proposed one? I understand your desire for the purple green, but in the one that's proposed, the gray one, that seems almost,
Sure.
I can imagine the Nature Conservancy having an opinion.
Well,
I don't know.
it's not worse. It's as I pointed out, it's a better alternative to get up there, but it's really not going through town property at that point.
Yeah, but it's already through a deeded way through Highview Lane, so you've got access in. I don't quite know who owns 248, but that's.
So you have to get the curve on lot 248 in order to get up to that northern border, number one. You've got a turning radius, and the engineer would probably tell you it's too tight a turning radius. If you wanted to get up to the northern part of lot 247 to run it right up through there. And again, do we know, Jill, who owns 248? Is that Nature Conservancy?
No, actually, my mother owns that, but it's
Okay.
it adjoins her. One of these is 249, I think, right?
Okay.
I think, but I think it was not. She owns 249, and I believe Highview Glen owns the 248. In answer to the other question about the other lots that didn't have houses on them, the ones with the red stripes are owned by the Nature Conservancy.
That's what it was.
That's why we haven't addressed those.
So Sven, we did talk about coming in along that property line. Again, it was through property that we had access to, but maybe it's 247 that's Nature Conservancy, and that's what messes us up trying to get in there right away. So it's definitely another option. But again, if there's any opportunity to go through the purple route, that's the least impacting environmental alternative from my perspective. And that's what we needed to at least try as hard as we could, to work with the community to see if that's feasible.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, can we go back to the purple route?
Go ahead, Martha.
That's homeowners association, is that correct?
Yes.
So
Yes.
any negotiation would have to be done with homeowners association. That's not up to the town. That's up to them. Am I right?
That's my understanding.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's my clarification.
Anybody else? Anybody from the housing board have any questions, comments? I see a Chris Willie, are you still have your hand up, or?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
On this, can we pan to the cluster development real quick? I can't move this thing on my screen right now, but just go. Yeah, there we go. Well, down a little. Like, has anybody talked to lot 107 or lot 108 about access?
Well, we actually, we tried to buy lot 108 when it went on the market. That's on my timeline. But we were outbid. And I believe that those property owners are now building a new house there.
Did we lose Jim?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. What is 108? Who's 108?
I think there's a house actually there now. I think it's been built.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
I here know who it is, but reference.
I have it as the Gibbons land, Gibbons live in trust. That's why I have his owners on that, at least on the map.
If that's, is that
That house is old.
2011 High Street? Because I'm pretty sure that's the lot we, back in 2011, we tried to buy it. It was in an estate. But it was purchased and the people who bought it have knocked down the old house and are in the process of building a large house on it.
And lot 107 is who?
I don't know, but I don't know how you get into lot 107. There's some property.
Get really lost.
Sorry, I think 107, you have to come in from the other side. There's a long road that comes up and the Nature Conservancy put an open space restriction on that house. And we can't come in that way because it's a private road that's shared by like 30 houses. So it's impossible to, because we looked at lot 106, which is right below it, that was owned by the Roses. It's right next to it. But the Roses lawyer, who I think told them that it wouldn't be feasible to come in that way because of the private
That's
road.
landlocked.
Yeah. I mean, I'm open to any creative suggestions, but as I said, I've been looking at this for 20 years, trying to figure out the best way to access the property. You don't think the where the purple road is, that the HOA, in return for, helping other local residents get houses, that they might be willing to swap out some open space for themselves?
But the only point I was making is that it's up to them. It's not up to us, and you'd have to negotiate with them. I don't think it's fair to put them on the spot.
Yeah, no,
Right
yeah,
now.
of course.
No.
That was one reason why I felt that would be, might be more advantageous for the town to acquire the whole parcel and work out those details.
Anybody else? Housing? Public? Council?
I think Mark has his hand up, Andre.
Mark Emanuel.
Yeah, I had a question earlier, and then thankfully Chris Willie came in as part of the discussion. I just want to know whether the other wonderful owners of those 4 houses have been told about this. And I know we're in the infancy stage, but I think it's only fair that they're involved with this in the infancy stage too.
Thank you, Mark.
You want me to answer that?
I'd like,
I
yeah,
think you did. Hey, did you?
I think you did.
Chris, you already said you did know about it.
Yeah.
Well,
Christopher, anything else?
I think initially we were only talking about 218, which was totally town owned. So, that's why.
Well, it's still abutting the property, and it's just common courtesy on something to this scale.
Yeah, of course. I just was mentioning why we hadn't reached out ourselves.
And I'm the one who raised that option. If I could just throw out that this isn't, from my perspective at least, this is just an engineering exercise of what looks feasible from an engineering standpoint. I certainly didn't mean to imply that, we were proposing to, build a road over lands of others without consulting them at all. This is just as Scott sort of, made very clear, we have an obligation to look at options. That's really all this is. It's not a suggestion or an implication at all that.
I fully understand what you're saying, but just do a little role reversal. And I think you might be a little bit upset if going into discussions about something like that without being part of the discussions, even in the infancy stages.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Artie, for that, for clarifying that. Keith Stover, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Andre. I just have, maybe this is a non-starter and takes us down a rabbit hole that no one wants, but has anybody thought about talking to the Nature Conservancy about that, whether they'd be willing to swap some of these lots to enable better access for a road from Highview Lane? You know, for example, if they swap 247 for 228 or 243 for, 236 or, something like that, because it seems like they are major landowners in this area. And, maybe they can't do that. I don't know how the, whatever deed restrictions or whatever, but it just seems like perhaps that might be worthwhile.
Interesting you should say that, Keith, because they also own, they being the Nature Conservancy, they own 227.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's not 243, but 227 that you flip over.
Flip, and then they'll own 227, 228, and 229. If they
And maybe it's a 2-for-1. So you're going to have to give up more lots. I mean, at the end of the day, it seems like you're trying to sell 4 houses and use 3 houses of affordable housing as sort of debate. But maybe there's a way to work with the homeowner association or the Nature Conservancy to try and get in a better position.
Thank you, guys. Anybody else have any comments on the topic?
Yeah, Andre?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, John Spear. Just let me make a general point. We are a community that prides itself on being green, progressive, very strong on conservation. We are increasing our restrictions on private landowners and what they can do, and you and the planning board are taking some heat for that in the press and in the community. So I think you have a bit of a PR problem and a messaging problem. The town gets behind a proposal to build a causeway across a 6-acre wetland. Conservancy says is critical habitat.
Thank you, John. Council, where would you like to move from here?
One last point I do like is when Jill said 3 affordable and 4 fair market. I like that ratio much better than what we had to swallow with Seawinds, where we got 1 old house for 4 or half a dozen brand new ones. So I like that. I like that math.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody?
If I could just say one last thing. I think what, in response to some of the comments, I mean, I think that one of the reasons I was putting out the second option, which was the town, acquiring the whole parcel, was that I was to avoid this issue of, coming across the swamp and having your ability to not cross much wetland and to acquire quite a bit of land for your long-term needs. So, I wanted, you look at it in that context also, I think someone made the comment that, the 3 houses were, bait for the 4 private development. I mean, that, as I said earlier, that was the first proposal we put forward because the thought was of trying to keep some lots for family members, not to develop. But I did want to, present this as a bigger long-term possibility, because I do feel it provides a lot of opportunity for the town to develop houses in an area that's close to the school, close to other houses, close to the town. It just seems in so many ways like an ideal location for your long-term housing needs that I thought it was worth, the town council looking at from that context. So I just wanted to, make that final point.
Thank you, Jill. Much appreciated. Sven, do you have
Andre?
Yeah, real quickly on, I would think next steps based on what I've heard. First of all, there's been a great discussion and it's great to have it out in the open and just sort of dialogue. I think, Jill, it's been mentioned and Martha, I think, pointed out, this is, at least the purple line is pretty much an HOA discussion with that group. And, that's up to the two of you guys, meaning the HOA and you. Secondly, I think the discussion about, talking to the land trust and, if there's some balance between the land trust or town and the Nature Conservancy, maybe there's some real way to make this work a little bit for you. And then at least from my point of view, I really think that exploring how to try and figure out the Highview Lane area is something that if the HOA doesn't work, the purple line doesn't work, the Highview Lane option compared to the Thomas property option seems to me to be significantly more attractive, but that's just my point of view.
Is there someone at the Land Trust who you suggest I could reach out to?
The chair is Barbara McMullen, and you can talk to the Land Trust. You can reach right out to them. Absolutely.
Okay. Great.
And Chris Littlefield at the Nature Conservancy, who I can be now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sven. There's a member of the public with their hand up. Okay, Sean McGarry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me? All right. I want to say thank you to the council for holding this discussion in open session. It's clearly better to come in on the ground floor than, after the fact. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. So, all right.
Andre?
Go ahead, Martha.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now, I just want to say I am not conversant with current wetland rules and regulations, but I can offer that if you stripped everything away from all the overgrowth of the last 75 years from this island, you would find multiple streams and multiple ways in which streams were broached and which wetlands are broached, which were not the horror stories that we are more likely to tell. And there's a stone rubble bridge on the Mansion Road that I don't think anybody even knows exists anymore. There are a lot of things. I know there are places people have bridges. I think Causeway, I think to a lot of us is sort of a horrifying dam that's going to kill everything under it and stop the flow of all water through it. And I'm sure there are ways around that. But I just think we ought to bear in mind that there are lots of alternatives and ways that things like this can be appropriately breached, but it isn't easy. It's not inexpensive. But we know people, and we think we all know people who have them on this island, and to say we can't do something that that other people have done is a little outrageous. But I would very much, and I think this has been stated enough times, but I'd like to point yet again that before you ever put, and this has happened to me, I can tell you how I reacted. You put somebody's land on a map with some code on it, it didn't go over well. You've got to talk to those people first. And I would hope that in the future that would always be done with whatever proposal anyone is bringing before anybody of this town.
Thank you for your comments, Martha. So, all right. So as I'm clear, I see nobody else with their hands up. Just so I'm clear, Jill. Well, thank you so much for your presentation. I want to say that the affordable housing lots are available to the town if the town approves the rights of ways anywhere where you've described, right? Because I've seen, it seems as though a lot of the discussion is going to, and I'm sorry, there's a lawnmower outside the window if you're getting audio messed up here. It seems as though the discussion seems to be centered on finding it from Highview Lane. So I just want to clarify for the discussion that the affordable housing initiative that you propose does not happen for the town if you're forced to go through Highview Lane. Am I correct on that?
Well, let me clarify.
Okay.
I guess there's one scenario that if the town were interested in acquiring this property for affordable housing and coming down Highview Lane, I mean, we would certainly consider that as a possibility also. I was initially focused on, coming in, from your other side near the school. But, I feel like there are some other, since what I'm hearing is, concerns about crossing some of those other properties. If you were interested in this for affordable housing, we would certainly consider trying to put it together a package that would be attractive for the city, or the town, I should say. So I would put that under the, when I mentioned that the three options, I would put that under the possibility of town development, because you would have a lot more flexibility to do other things with that property if you wanted to come in Highview Lane also.
Thank you, Jill, for that. Does anybody else have any other questions? I know our agenda says discuss and act. I'm not prepared to act because I'd like to digest all the information that I have gotten tonight. I've learned a lot about that property, a lot of things I didn't know about that property, which is great, and I appreciate that. Where does the council want to go with this? What's yours? Martha?
I'll take care of that lawnmower. Well, clearly, the access alternatives have got to be explored at greater depth than have already been, and what we're really talking about. I think there's some interesting possibilities that we haven't even brought out. One of the problems which may exist is this land has been checkerboarded. I think since I don't remember, as long as I can remember, it's been checkerboarded. So some of these things about flipping lots may or may not work because of the ownership. It isn't always what it appears to be, but that's certainly worth looking into. I think there are lots of possibilities that, but that's way downstream. But I don't believe we're anywhere near ready to take an action tonight.
Is there any additional information that would be helpful, or would you like to follow up with more discussion?
I think you should talk to the homeowners association and see if you can get a handle on where they're at, if you want to pursue that. That particularly. We've got things on a piece of paper, but drawing lines on maps is all good and well. But whether we can't look at a plan and say, well, yeah, we'll do this one if it's not a doable thing. I don't think anybody wants to go into eminent domain at the drop of a hat.
I agree. I guess my thought is we put down some of those alternatives as suggestions for the town. I don't really, I didn't really propose that we would get involved with pursuing those other options with the homeowners association. I guess from my suggestion is if the town sees this piece of property, there's 2 acres of land as something of potential interest for affordable housing, then we could talk about, what makes most sense as from a development standpoint. Because I think that some of the options I put out there, are really within the town's control. And if the town wanted to acquire it, you'd have a lot more flexibility than I have as a private party. Because we're not going to go back in and subdivide or, go for cluster housing or do any of those things. Because I feel unless the town is, the town would be much more able to do things with that property that we can't. So that was really why I saw that as a better solution. And rather than get fixated on some of these access points, I was hoping that you would look at it from that standpoint. Is this a piece of property that will could potentially meet your long-term housing needs? Since it's in such a good location for residents and within the town water district. So I really think that's kind of the first question. And then, then the development options, I believe the town will have more development options open to it than we will as a private party. I don't know if I said that correctly, but I just wanted to say, don't get too focused on, I don't think, we're going to be in a position to, go to negotiate with all the homeowners associations and that kind of thing.
All right, Jill, thank you so much for that. Did you say you met with the housing board already? Did the housing board take this up at all, or?
Yeah, back in October, Cindy put it in front of them. I don't know if Cindy's still on, but I gave it to her last August, and I know it went to the housing board, and the feedback I got was that the board was interested but wanted more details. And that's why we went, through this process of engaging the experts and also, bringing it to the town manager and the council.
Thank you.
Andre, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Cindy Pappas.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, Jill Stern came to the board, with the proposal about the possibility of our board receiving 3 potential affordable lots. And of course, the board is always excited to hear about the possibility of having access to land for little or no money. So of course, we're all ears. But her original proposal, which was the only one I was familiar with, we hadn't talked about any of the other access points, but the original question that she posed was access via going over 218, right by the current town manager's house, to which we responded, we have no authority or purview over that lot. She needed to talk to the town council. So that's why she's before you, looking to see if there's any interest in access over 218. The purple and the yellow lines were a new introduction to everybody tonight. And I guess, that was an engineering exercise saying there's more than one way to get into this property. So while the housing board is always interested to talk about possible potential sites for affordable housing, this decision is not under our purview. We're interested in having lots to work with. Land is increasingly scarce, but we're also concerned about environmental issues and the developmental cost of, it's one thing to get 3 lots. It's another thing not to be able to afford to access them. So the construction, the infrastructure cost would be a very important thing for us to understand to make sure that the lots truly are affordable. So we're always interested in talking about affordable lots, but there are still some unanswered questions on how the town can assist and proceed, and what the actual consequences are of each of these entry points in terms of environmental issues and developmental costs.
Thank you for that clarification, Cindy. I really appreciate that. Would that right of way going through Thomas, would that, using that amount of, using that property there, would that have any impact on the town's previous plans for that property? Would it take away from what the buildable lot size if we put a right of way through there? Can anybody answer that?
Sven, it's Mary, Andre, it's Mary Ann. I've just started having preliminary discussions about this particular, about the 218 Thomas. And I echo what Cindy said, because I've been involved with some of the discussion with the 218 property, possible right away, and the orange and purple was also new to myself. I was waiting for this meeting before I would take it to the next step, seeing where the council want to go, because I would like to also have the town engineer look at some of this. And that was strictly related to the 218. There's utilities there and some other things there. And one of the thoughts and concern I did have was if we end up putting the road there, was exactly that. Is there any potential of the developable piece of property there? Because we will be moving forward. I have an architect lined up and he's going to start drawing relatively soon. When I say relatively soon, probably in the next couple of weeks, regarding the other piece, the other house that's located on the Thomas property that we will be constructing. So I don't want to do something on one property and not be able to build as many units to acquire another property. So we need to take that all into consideration.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is find out what our next steps are so we don't waste any time of this applicant who's come before us today with, you know, this proposal or our time. So can we say that maybe that's off the table right now, going through that lot? I mean, is that the consensus of the council? Or like I said, I'm just trying to move forward without wasting time. So what do we want to do here this evening?
Are you talking about the 218 lot at this point?
Yes.
So I'll take care of the 218 lot. I will have some follow-up conversation with the town planner and also have a brief conversation with the town engineer. I do have some concerns about the utilities that are on that side of the house also, which may also decrease how much space is available there. So I'll be happy to run with that.
Can I ask, in your plans, if you're built, because obviously I'm not privy to all that information, is there, are you going to be running, you know, a road in for other houses on that property at a different point, or
No,
driveways, or? Because I'm just wondering. Sorry.
What we'll probably do, there's a house already there, and it'll probably stay pretty much in that footprint.
Because I just was wondering if you were, you know, running other, you know, roads, driveways through there, it might be easier to, there might be an opportunity to come off one of those new roads across that property.
Like I said, I will be speaking with the town engineer and I'll have him take a look at that from that perspective too.
Thank you, Mary.
Because I think any road we put in anywhere, you're affecting the developable land property there. That's the problem.
Okay, so Mark?
Just the final strong recommendation for Jill and Scott and Audie is that I would abandon any possibility of using Amy Dodge Lane. First of all, it's about a $20 cab ride to get from where you want to go to where you want to go, if you even did get the permits. Amy Dodge Lane is awful congested, especially in the summertime. That road, though it's not as bad as it used to be when there used to be bumper stickers out here that said this car climbed Amy Dodge Road, is no treat. So I would abandon that just to save you some money, personally.
Thank you, Mark. All right, we have marching orders. Anybody else have any other comments? Martha?
I know I'm all set. Thank you.
You're square lit up, that's why I ask. Okay. So do we need anything from, Mary Ann's gonna work on that with Jill? And I don't know when you'll be able to get that information to the council, but I would like to keep Jill and her, I don't want to drag this out, so to speak. She has a proposal before us. I would like to get her an answer one way or another, whether or not we want to move forward on this. So can we schedule this maybe in an early June meeting or, whenever you have that info?
We could put it on the first meeting in June, I think. I'll see why we can't.
Is there anything that the council would like to need, any other information the council would like to ask for at this time? If there is any, I would say forward it to the town manager to forward to Jill. But other than that, I don't think we have anything else to discuss on this topic. And I really want to thank you guys for coming and proposing this to the town and our housing board. And the housing board would like to thank you. Oh, housing board, we got 2 more items. So around.
All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Scott.
All
Thank you, Holly.
See if I-
Let me
Bye
see.
now.
Let's hang on one second. Let me shift gears. I was pulling up maps on Clerkbase the whole time, so hold on, I have to find the agenda. Unless you have a handy spank, you can call number 2 on the agenda if you want. I have it handy. Discuss zoning change for the O'Brien property, Plat 18, Lot 2 from residential A zone to New Harbor Commercial Zone. Again, the information is up on Clerkbase. Hoping that council has had a chance to review it, and if there's any questions, comments, that would be great. Housing Board, I'll let you take the lead on this one. Cindy, John?
Cindy here. Thanks so much for hearing our proposal. I'm sure that you're all aware that we acquired the Ball O'Brien parcel a few years back. Now that we have completed the Cherry Hill Lane development, we are ready to turn our attention to Ball O'Brien. We have had a boundary survey. We have just authorized an engineering company to start a Class 1 topographical survey for us. We are in the very infancy stages of trying to, get that material together and start to dream and plan and develop how we want to proceed with the property. So we had a couple of preliminary discussions with Jen Brady Brown and Allison Ring and Bill Landry, and they all encouraged us that the most expeditious way to proceed would be to request a zoning change to have the Ball O'Brien parcel zoned as New Harbor Commercial. As you know, we bordered the cemetery, and then across the street, the lots are New Harbor Commercial. The park across the street, going into Sam Peckham's, Salt Pond Settlement, excuse me, and Champlin's Marina. And then to our west, we butt the East Earls Ball development. The property would be served by town water and town sewer. So we feel that it is a perfect spot for affordable housing development, and that New Harbor Commercial Zone is a more appropriate designation, which gives us the latitude to develop that property. So that's what we're asking for. And as that discussion went on, the corollary was that the comprehensive plan also would need to be tweaked to put that particular piece in a moderate density designation rather than a low density designation. So that is what we're before you tonight to request those two changes, the zoning change and the comprehensive plan change. And I believe that the planning board has given you an advisory on this. We met with the planning board last week or 10 days ago. And so we look to you for a favorable assessment of this plan.
Thank you. I would note that, Council, did you see, we did get the memo from the planning board dated May 18th, and they are in favor of this.
Yep.
So I'm in favor of this. I don't see, I mean, it says discuss, but I mean, is this something that we have to put on our agenda later to put on, or are you just looking for guidance from us and somebody?
Don't we already have this on our agenda?
I think we do.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
do, you have it set for public hearing. We just wanted to give you an opportunity, if you have any questions, to ask directly to the housing board. We would like to be able to, answer any questions for you, or do some research if necessary. And then we thought we could then move on to discuss the actual development of the property.
Council have any
Thank
questions? Mark?
I'm very much in favor of it. My only question was one I raised earlier. What's the net gain from switching from low to moderate housing there?
Can anybody answer?
I think the comprehensive, I'm not sure I exactly understand the question, Mark, but I think the
How many more
comprehensive
units could we
plan,
go for if it's elevated to moderate instead of low?
yeah, I really don't know the answer. The Allison Ring just told us that's what we needed to do. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer.
I could address that.
Thanks, John. Go ahead.
The property is, as it is now, residential A zone would accommodate one market value house or two affordable housing houses. So going to New Harbor Commercial would allow the density to increase to approximately what the density is of West Side 20. I think we calculated that we would get 8, 9, or 10 single-family houses there if we maxed it out in that format. Now we're here to have a general concept discussion about other possibilities for it. But we felt that New Harbor Commercial was compatible with everything else in the neighborhood. It really would allow us a density very comparable to East Earls Ball, to Salt Pond Settlement, or to West Side 20. That would actually be less dense than Salt Pond Settlement, but we're not proposing that type of model.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Martha?
Yeah, I've got a question since I don't have my zoning with me, and my zoning knowledge is about 20 years old anyway. John, I guess you're the onboard expert here.
Oh, don't put that on me.
Yeah, I thought I should come up with a better term, but I can't think and talk at the same time. So are you talking single family? You talking duplex, or is this still floating?
It's very much floating, and we are, the next item, or this item on the agenda, is really for us wanting to get the council's feedback. This is a very broad-based community issue, the different types of housing and demographics that we need to address. So we would like to discuss this with the council and see how it integrates into your understanding of the needs and the possibilities out here as we begin the brainstorming process of developing a concept for this property. What we're talking about right now at this moment is just that change to New Harbor Commercial, which I think gives us the latitude to proceed in a number of directions with this.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, it's on my agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Sven, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. I think everybody else is. I think the switch to New Harbor Commercial makes all the sense in the world, given it's surrounded either by the cemetery or in essence high density. while I've discussed this with some folks on the housing board, and I think I've been pretty vocal, I believe there's an increased demand for more rental in an affordable housing structure. I believe a little bit more apartment structure versus house structure. And I believe hopefully there's some balance that as you guys go forward and do your planning, you can reach between maybe a couple of houses and however you want to phrase it, higher density, sort of that Sears Ball type of framework. Because I think there are many people that are here that don't really want to own a house per se, but they'd love to be able to rent or at least potentially own something much smaller. So I think that I'm very much in support of this initiative and the switch, and I'm excited about seeing where you guys take it. But I think I'm not 100% in favor of sort of replicating what was done on the 20 or Cherry Hill right now, because I think the needs have changed. I think the makeup of those people that have been applying for affordable housing has changed a bit, at least so I've heard. But I'm very much in support of this effort. Thank you.
Okay, that's actually the next item. We're just.
I know.
Are we ready to move on to that?
Personally.
Keith?
I think we might as well, since we are anyway.
We are.
I raised my hand not knowing which agenda item was on.
We only moved one up.
Whatever.
One.
I sort of, I guess, somewhat to Sven's point, so much of the information that I feel like I have about the demand is anecdotal. You know what I mean? It's sort of what I hear on a particular day that a particular friend or family or, is looking for. So I was actually hoping to get a sense from you guys, sort of, what your, what's the feedback from the community? Is it, or, in terms of your surveys, what are you seeing demand for? And obviously this will not be, the final project. I'm just curious about, as people who are involved in this, as your primary community volunteer activity, kind of what you're hearing, because I'm sort of, there are all kinds of points of information, whether it's, 4 emails a day on the bulletin board with people just seeking, good basic rental housing, or, families who are disappointed because they didn't make it, qualify, or, didn't sort of win the lottery the last couple of times. I mean, there's sort of things at both ends of both ends of the spectrum. And I'm just curious, what would you guys like to build? What do you think the community needs?
I'll speak first. It's Cindy Pappas, and ask the other board members to chime in. But I think that basically all types of housing are needed on the island. We recently conducted a survey, and it basically shows that there is a need for anywhere between 1 bedroom to 4 bedroom residences. There is a need for affordable year-round stable rentals, because there are no affordable year-round stable rentals to speak of. There are people that are looking for smaller houses. There are people that are looking for, their own little house on its own little piece of land with a white picket fence. So it does run the gamut. Because there is so little housing available that is affordable in any of those categories. There's a need in all of the categories. The thinking of the board right now is that as we look at the Ball O'Brien property, we feel that it does lend itself to some higher density because of the water and sewer availability, attached housing, maybe more of a townhouse style housing rather than single family dwellings would be more appropriate. And we were kind of leaning towards a mix of rental and sale. One of the challenges that we have is the economic model. When we, in our past projects, we have paid for the land, raised enough money to start our infrastructure costs, taken out a mortgage to build the dwellings, and then sold the dwellings, paid back the mortgage in full. It's a great economic model, works very well. When we contemplate moving into the rental realm, the finances get a little dicier, takes a little more creativity. Hence, we were thinking that maybe a blend of rental and sale could work on that property. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Anybody else on the board have something to contribute?
Rosemary?
Hi, I can share the survey results with the town council members if the housing board is okay with that. And you guys can review what people did leave comments and ideas, and we found it extremely helpful for
I'd
us
love to
to
read
make
that,
decisions.
Rosemary, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
I just need emails and I can share
Hey,
the information with you.
If you want to send it to me or Millie, or why don't you send it to Millie? Millie at the clerk will get it out to everyone. That'll be the easiest way.
Millie, do you have a question, comment?
No, I had a follow-up comment. Another thing that we have also thrown around, and probably John can speak to this a little stronger, but the potential of maybe the town and or the school being a partner in this, and maybe purchasing some lots, some units from us to secure for a town and
I was just about to ask that question.
that would help help pay for the economics of it for the housing board, also provide you guys us, I know we're all as a whole, but provide this town specific and the school specific opportunities for housing.
And just to echo what Millie said, Cindy Pappas and I had extensive conversation of the exact same thing. With this particular project, could we have a couple of town-owned properties? So there has been extensive conversation about that model also.
Stacy,
Hi, how are you?
hey, I saw you had your hand up.
I know I do it the old-fashioned way.
That's not a bad thing. With this new webinar, that's probably the quickest way for me to see you.
I just wanted to follow up on a couple things. The first thing is what Rosemary touched on with the survey. Some of the information that we gathered showed that there is a need for something other than the 3 or 4 bedroom houses that the board has done for many years now. It wasn't the majority of people surveyed, but there is definitely a need for it. So we did want to put that into our mix. And like Keith talked about, it really does depend on who you talk to or the squeaky wheel, that seeks you out to tell you about their needs. But what we're finding is that the needs are vast, and trying to vary that in this next project is, I think, really the direction that we want to go in. And we all feel pretty strongly about that. Trying to find the best way to meet as many needs as we can with this next project.
I just want to say, Millie and Marianne, that was like the first thing I was thinking of, is whether this could be a joint venture of some sort. And then, Stacy, to your point, so I'm getting freight today and I bump into John Brunig, who has this, wonderful new young guy who's coming to work there, who has all the licenses, everything. He works in North Kingstown. He's like, and he needs to find a place to house him. And it's entirely possible that, for example, the water company would like to reserve a place. I think everybody, a lot of the town agencies certainly feel that compelling need. So I love that idea.
Thank you, Keith. Anybody else? I mean, I think, I agree with your plan. I think it's fantastic. But I'm just wondering, again, how do we move forward? What do you need from us? Hang on, Mark. Hang on, Mark. Is my internet there? Is everybody's internet freezing, or is it just mine in town council?
I think
You're
just
good.
yours.
Yeah.
All right.
I went off audio. I have no, I went off video. I have no idea.
I'm not asking, I'm just asking how to move forward from this to expedite the discussion. What is it that you need from us, on this? I mean, I think we're all in agreement that your plan moving forward is, the right one for the town. Maybe I can ask, like, what are you thinking about, how many apartment units, how many, I mean, I don't know what you can fit there, especially with the talk of, new development rights being transferred. That might be a possibility there or not. But what are you looking for? Like, what can you put there right now? Anybody? John?
Yeah, I can address that on a very preliminary level. We've done some thinking about it on the hypothetical level. I did a couple of sketch models. Until we get a design professional involved and a topographic survey, which we just awarded a contract for tonight, we won't really know what we can fit there. I started out, when I did some preliminary sketches, I started out with a model of, I think, 9 homes. We could put 9 small lots with single family houses on them, similar to the West Side 20. And the way I've been thinking about the property is not dwelling units, but human occupancy. So for example, if you had a mix of studio, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments that would accommodate roughly the same number of people as 9 single family homes of 2 or 3 bedrooms, you might be talking about 20 units hypothetically. And that sounds like a lot. And I know that there's going to be a lot of pushback from that. But the reality of it is that it's a very comparable density to the model that we've been doing. And on that subject, the survey and anecdotal information comes back and tells us that everybody really wants the same thing. The most popular choice on the survey and that you hear about is, I want a house. I want a house on a lot with a fence around it, my own space, my own parking space. But the reality is that's the model we've done, the town has done, it's been done privately. Almost every development that's been done has been that model. It's a good model, it works, it provides people with homes, but the board is feeling as though it's time to address a different demographic. And that is the demographic that is maybe more transient, that is willing to accept a much smaller living space, that is maybe at a lower income scale. So that's why we're considering smaller units. In terms of what we want, what the board needs from you, I think we're getting it. We're getting that you are open to partnering or participating, that you are going to be supportive of this model, that you concur with our analysis of the town's needs. So I think where we go next is going to involve our design process.
Okay. No, it's certainly helpful. I appreciate it. And do you have your hand up?
No, trying to lower my hand. But I do think, just as an aside, I do think there's been such changes socially and demographically around the cities. You see a lot more people moving back into the cities for different housing structures and needs. So I think I look forward to seeing the survey results, Stacy, and thanks for sending that out. But I'm excited about this blend of housing structures and a new approach. So thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, Andre?
Go ahead, Martha.
I think John made a really, really important point that can't be underscored enough. And that's when you start talking about the numbers of people versus the numbers of units. And it's something that, as one person living by themselves out in the middle of nowhere, when people start talking about, well, we can't have double density, we can't have this, we can't have that. And I remember the first time it ever came up, I looked at something, I thought, you've got more people living in your house than anybody on the neck at that point had in their house. And you're telling us none of us could rent a room because you don't want it to be overpopulated. And this whole unreal premise has just got to be thrown out the window and looked at in terms of numbers of people and what's real, what's honest. You're not going to have 4 people in every house or whatever the national norm is today. The other thing, I don't know if this may not work economically, but something that was talked about way back was the possibility of having houses that were created so it was an owner-occupied, not an owner-occupied, so that there was already the apartment in it was owned by the person who owned the house. So the house owner would be paying more for the money, but would be having a guaranteed revenue stream, which would take everybody else out of the rental business. And it's kind of like what an awful lot of people are doing now, maybe not quite so above board because of such a need. And I don't know if that's been looked into at all, but I just think it's really important to maintain flexibility and be realistic about what the needs are. And everybody always checks the box of, I want to own a house until they own a house and have to deal with all of the realities of owning a house. I think some people would rent if it was an easy option.
Thank you, Martha. Anybody else? Go ahead, Stacy.
Martha, we do plan on sending out another survey, and Rosemary and I just talked briefly about some of the questions, and we are going to gear this next survey toward people that are interested in renting. So I think when you have an option, what would you like to do if you won the lottery? A lot of people will say own a home, but
oh, sure.
we are going to gear this toward people. Would you be willing to rent an affordable unit year round? And I think that we're going to get quite a bit of feedback on that. So we'll share that with you as well.
Thanks, Stacy.
Yeah, I hope so, because we all know how many people are looking for rental spaces. Thank you so much.
Anybody else on the topic? Mark and Rosemary. Mark and then Rosemary.
I could talk about this in so many different tangents. My first year here, I lived in a garage with 2 other people and a dog. I was one of the lottery applicants for Beacon Hill and didn't receive it. I was on the original housing board when we took it upstate, along with Martha and Dickie, to get the legislation. But the one I want to talk about is one that Cindy can kind of confirm. And that is when we sat around that table at our very first meeting with about $130 in our overall budget, we talked about whatever we did to make sure it fit as benignly into the landscape as possible without discounting the undebatable need for affordable housing. So with this particular site, I'd just like you to keep in mind the kind of the sacred place that will be your neighbor, the cemetery, and the fact that it will be extremely visible by so many people, as opposed to other projects like this that are even covered because of their remoteness, because of their landscaping. This one will be very visible. People will look at that. That's Black Island affordable housing. Wow. They did it, and boy, did they do it right. So I'm not a fan of cookie cutter. I never have been. I would discourage you from going that route. I like different designs that incorporate different levels and the such, something like Dick Tarrant's property across from the Westside Baptist Church, where there's bigger houses and then smaller houses, or the houses all the way down the end of Black Rock and that beautiful homestead. That's what I would like to see personally. But again, I'm not discounting the need for affordable housing and getting in as much as possible. You know that old saying Danny Holly used to always say, and John, you understand it because you built a house that incorporates everything. I'm speaking about. You want to make it look like it growed there. And that's what I would like to see.
Thank
Well,
you.
those are good words, Mark, and that has been a repetitive theme at our meetings, because we are so highly visible to the street. That responsibility of having a wonderful streetscape weighs heavily on us. So we will do our best. Thanks.
Sorry, I got a weed whacker now. Mark, did you send these people here? Oh, it's Robbie. All right. Anybody else have any comments on this topic? And I would certainly tell you to, oh, Rosemary, go ahead. Sorry, I almost
That's okay. I
distracted
sent
by
the
the weed
survey.
whacker out there.
I sent the survey to Millie, so you guys can look at it. It's a link that brings you to it, and you can read each individual survey. And then I just had one comment about the whole rental versus sales aspect. And like Stacy was saying, and I think, my goal on the board is to have more rental units, because I feel like when it comes down to it and people need to mortgage and sign pen and paper, they might not. They might actually want to rent. So I don't know. I think that's about that fine balance. And, the survey results will show you that. I think so. And then Stacy and I are going to try to come up and fine tune them so that we get an idea before we go forward with this and maybe make mistakes. So that's why we're doing that survey.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. I think that's, I think you guys are on it. You guys are a success story in this town. So I personally take your advice is good. So I know these discussions will be going on and on. So Mark?
Okay, one last thing. I agree with you, Andre. This group is an all-star team. And thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you, Mark. Sven, did you throw your hand up? Okay. Martha?
Excited.
Keith?
Not for me. It's wonderful.
Shannon Marsala, I see your box is lit up.
Only because I got kicked out and I just rejoined. But I think this has been great discussion. I feel like, I'm really new to this process, but I'm learning so much from this discussion. So thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. Kay? Do you have any comments? Okay. Now I'm actually soliciting comments. So, well, hearing now, well, I'm just making sure everyone wants to get it in. So, with that, moving forward, we will keep in touch, I guess. We have the Rosemary has sent the survey to us, the results. If there's any questions or comments from the counselors on that, I would say contact the housing board. When do you guys have this up? When's your next meeting? Next month? Because you had one tonight before ours?
We did. So we'd probably be the second Tuesday in June.
Okay. All right.
And I just want to say one more thing. If you guys have any, once you look at the survey, and if you have any questions that you think might work for our new survey, you can certainly reach out to Stacy and I, or, if you feel like, if you have any questions that you think would help.
Okay. That's why I asked when your next meeting was, because I was actually looking for a deadline to submit questions to you guys or comments.
Okay, good.
So that, counselors get that in and maybe even join them. Mark?
I have one last question. As I read the Nantucket paper, there's some 5 proposals before the town boards to gain more revenue, dedicated revenue stream, whatever means possible, because it's a huge problem over there too. Is our dedicated revenue stream still generating just over 6 figures?
Yes. I believe we were somewhere around 120 last year. And I'm not sure that I can quote the exact return rate on our on the populace here, but it's very, very high. We've always been
Super,
quite
especially
pleased
with all
with.
especially with all the people renting on their own. That's great news.
Well, it certainly ought to be with people, the number, we were losing our whole summer community to rental out here, and that's,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I hate to see that happen. I certainly hope we're getting the appropriate funding from all of these all these private rentals, because I think we can all look at Facebook, social media, and see the extraordinary number of them that are out there, and all the pretend realtors we've got going on. I always tell people, deal with a realtor if you want to be safe.
Right. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn? Council, do you guys have to do a motion to adjourn to yourself? As a housing board? No. I will make a motion to adjourn for the town council.
Second?
With much thanks to the housing board. Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Martha?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye, and thank you.
Keith?
Yes.
Mark?
Aye.
Motion passes. I knew it would. All right, housing board, I'll let you do your business. Thank you so much. I look forward to speaking with you guys again.
Thanks. Really appreciate your
you.
support.
Yeah, no, anytime, Cindy.
Cindy, do you want to
So
call?
Millie.
Yeah, do you want to call for a motion to adjourn?
Yes, absolutely. I will entertain a motion.
Second.
I think Shannon's,
Yep, Shannon seconded it.
Do you want to make it?
Okay.
Cindy, or
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback. So I'm pretty sure we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much for, okay. Thanks so much
Bye.
for hanging in. Thanks for hanging in on the call and for all of your wonderful comments. It was really great, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.